how can you expect that from me as a parent to pray that prayer, that it's fine for you to take her? Between 2018 and 2024, I was living in Zambia with my family, my wife and 4 children, and we were doing missions work over there. In that time, there's a few occasions where we really experience God in our lives, and there's one story which I would love to share. It started like a normal weekday that day, and I remember waking up and going outside, and actually I heard a dog barking. It sounded a bit like a puppy. And that was a bit unique because the area where we stayed, it was the land of the organization that we were working for. Normally you wouldn't find dogs there. So I heard a dog barking and I thought, oh, that's interesting, but also it's not too special, so I didn't pay any attention. So we just had breakfast as a family and I went to the office, which was just a couple of 100 meters walk. And then just a bit later, my wife Ali, she called me and she said, Jana, our last born, she was almost 2 years at that time, she's been bitten by a dog. So I rushed home and I found her daughter there. She was obviously upset and crying, and Alice, my wife, she was like cleaning the wound and comforting her. And immediately we were a bit worried, obviously, because we knew that if you get bitten by a dog in those countries, there's always a big risk of rabies and other diseases. And the thing with rabies is that once you get the symptoms, basically that's when you only can find out that you have it or not. But also there's no treatment available. Basically, getting rabies is 100% sure that it's 100% fatal, so you will die of it. The challenge as well is that the incubation time is quite long. That can take up to 3 months. All of us, except for this little daughter, we had our vaccines for rabies, but with her, because she was still young and she already had quite an extensive medical history, we just never got around giving her the vaccines yet. So we knew that that was a risk. So we were in contact with a local doctor, and he said, well, the best thing, actually what is needed now is to get a shot of antibodies, and then you should start a normal vaccine treatment. But he also said, but the antibodies, there's like worldwide, they are very scarce. So we don't have them in Zambia. So we immediately I rushed to town that morning, got the vaccines. We got the first one done, and then it's like 4 or 5 other vaccines that you need to take in the first few weeks. At the same time, the guys doing the maintenance on the buildings of their compound, they were chasing the dog, and they actually managed to catch it, and they killed it also so that they could send the dog for testing, because we knew it could be a rabid dog, because that's quite common in Zambia. A couple of days later, we got the test results back from the dog, and that confirmed that the dog indeed was a rabid dog. So also that confirmed to us that there obviously was a chance that that Jana would be infected with rabies as well. At that time we knew that the next 3 months would be a very tense period, because we knew that she could get the disease, and that if that happened she would die. We also knew that the first symptoms of rabies is like fever, like your general flu or sickness. There's no specific typical rabies symptoms at the beginning. So we also knew with a 2-year-old that she would probably get a flu, she would get some sort of sickness in those couple of months, so we were prepared that that was going to happen. couple of days later we did celebrate her second birthday. And just always there's like, but you know, maybe this is actually her last one. And you never know, you know, when if your birthday is your last birthday. But with her it was very real somehow that it could very well be her last birthday at that time. I remember during those days sometimes just looking at her and thinking like, oh, I will really, really miss you. Almost as if somehow in your mind sometimes you just feel like, okay, you know, like that is what is going to happen, even though we obviously didn't know if she would get the disease. So we prayed a lot for her as well, obviously. And we had many people, friends in Zambia and in our home country praying for us also. So I remember I had to travel to Lusaka, the capital city. That's like a 3-hour drive. And I was just driving by myself, and that was not a good day. I felt very down. So on the road that side, I just continued praying, and I was pleading with God, and I was also sharing all the arguments I could find that also for God it would be the best that she would still live. So that was 3 hours of driving and also intense praying. My mind got quiet for maybe 1 or 2 seconds, and then the first thing that came to mind is, what, not my will, but your will be done. And I was like, God, really? Is this really what you want to say to me after my 3 hours of praying? How can you expect that from me as a parent, to pray that prayer, that it's fine for you to take her? Around that same time, we got also involved with some medical doctors in the Netherlands, and one quite uncommon, he actually called us directly, and he said, okay, I know about your situation. I also know that it's that the normal process is that after 7 days you should get the antibodies, and this was now 3 weeks later. He said, I know it's uncommon, but still I think it's really important that we still get those antibodies, because anything that we can do to reduce the risk is what we should do at this stage. So that actually was in a way a bit worrying for us, because we were almost starting to feel comfortable like with what we were doing with the vaccines, and that it was, yeah, should be fine. So this was on a Saturday afternoon. So we shared that message with friends at home and in Zambia. And the next morning church, we prayed a lot for her, and I know at our church back home they also prayed for her, and also especially for those antibodies to be available somewhere, somehow, that she could get them very soon. And then even before we left church, I got a phone call from the doctor back home. He said, no, actually we did find them in Lusaka in Zambia, which is like a 3-hour drive, so how soon can you get there? So we were like, well, we're already in the car. So that same day we drove to Lusaka, to the hospital, and she got those antibodies as well. So by that time we knew that we've done everything that we could do, and it was really just waiting for, yeah, the 3 months to end. We had a few scares at that time, because obviously it is a 2-year-old, so she does get sick, so she did get fever at some point. But thankfully she never started to like vomit, because that's one of the next symptoms. Thankfully it's now, well, more than 2 years she's still here. So in spite of all of those situations that happened, we do know that God protected her. We sense it in everything. But also, as much as difficult as that time was with seeing her and thinking she would surely die, not sure what to expect, we felt a lot of comfort from the Lord. So yeah, it was a very intense period, but also very, very comforting, and we've really experienced the Lord in many, many ways, and with much more, I think much more we realize that, you know, getting up every day, living your life is just mercies from the Lord, and it's a gift. So we're very thankful for that.